You know what most people never admit? They never admit that the prison they complain about every day isn't built by society or money or bad luck. It's built by them. Brick by brick, habit by habit, excuse by excuse. And that's the craziest part. People don't even realize they're the architects of their own misery. They think they're victims of circumstance, when in reality, they've been designing their cage for years. You wake up in the same room you hate, with the same bank balance you complain about, with the same body you're ashamed of, doing the same routine that kills your soul a little more every morning. But who put you there? Who decided that hitting snooze was more important than building a life? Who decided scrolling on your phone for 3 hours was more important than leveling up? Who decided you didn't feel like doing the work today? You did. No one else. Nobody forced you to stay mediocre. Nobody held a gun to your head and said, stay weak, stay average, stay exactly where you are. You chose it. You accepted it. You settled for it. And people don't like hearing this because it removes their favorite luxury, blame. Blame is the soft pillow losers rest their heads on every night. Blame keeps you warm. It gives you excuses. It lets you sleep peacefully knowing it's not your fault. But when you remove blame, when you strip away the lies and the stories and the narratives, you're left with one undeniable truth. You made the decisions that shaped your life. Think about how many moments disguised as minor choices have built the walls around you. Every time you skipped the gym because you were tired. Every time you spent money on nonsense instead of investing in yourself. Every time you said tomorrow instead of today. Every time you chose comfort over progress. Those tiny choices didn't disappear. They stacked, they accumulated, they became your cage. You didn't notice it at first because cages aren't built overnight. But eventually you woke up and realized you trapped yourself in a routine that keeps you small. And here's what makes it worse deep down. You know this. You know you're responsible. That's why you feel this constant heaviness in your chest. That's why you feel guilty when you waste time. That's why you get irritated when someone else wins. Because their success exposes your choices. Their discipline exposes your laziness. Their progress exposes your wasted potential. And instead of using that as fuel, most people run from it. They hide. They lie to themselves. They pretend the cage is someone else's fault. But imagine for a moment what would happen if you stopped lying. If you looked at your life and said, yes, I built this. And because I built it, I can unbuild it. That's the part people forget. The same hands that created the cage can break it apart. The same choices that trapped you can be reversed by different choices. You are not stuck because of circumstance. You are stuck because your habits are stronger than your dreams. And the truth is, your cage isn't even locked. It has no door. It has no chains. You stay inside because it's familiar. You stay inside because stepping out means facing the unknown. You stay inside because freedom requires responsibility, effort, courage, and discomfort, things most people avoid like a disease. So they sit in the cage and decorate it with excuses. They try to make it comfortable. They try to convince themselves it's not that bad. But deep down, they know they were meant for more. Every time you complain about your situation, the universe is laughing at you because it knows you're the one who created it. Every time you look at someone living the life you want, a part of you dies inside because you know you had the same opportunity, the same 24 hours, the same potential, and you threw it away. Not because you're unlucky, but because you refuse to take control. You want a better life. You want more money, more respect, more freedom. It starts with this realization the cage is yours. And if you built it, you can destroy it. Most people don't realize this, but weakness isn't an accident. It's not genetics. It's not fate. Weakness is a skill you practiced until you became a master at it. You trained yourself to give up. You trained yourself to quit when things got uncomfortable. You trained yourself to avoid anything difficult, anything painful, anything that required effort. And now you're surprised that you feel powerless. You're shocked that your life isn't moving. How can a person who has trained for years in the art of avoidance expect strength to magically appear? Look at your daily routine. You don't wake up strong, you wake up soft. The first thing you do is surrender. The alarm rings and you don't even fight. Before you've even opened your eyes properly, before the day has even started, you've already failed the first battle. You hit snooze, you roll over. You tell yourself you'll get up in 5 minutes. And in that moment, you're rehearsing weakness. You're practicing the habit of backing down. You're teaching your mind that it's acceptable to betray your goals the moment things feel uncomfortable. Then you start your morning scrolling through your phone, bombarding your brain with dopamine. Another practice session in weakness. Instead of controlling your mind, you let impulses control you. You let random videos shape your mood. You let notifications dictate your focus. Every swipe is a reminder that you're not in charge, and it gets worse as the day goes on. Every time you avoid a difficult task, every time you choose the easy option, every time you postpone the thing you know you must do, you reinforce the identity of a weak man. And here's the hard truth: identity is built through repetition. You're not weak because of a single failure. You're weak because failure became a ritual. You're weak because you've performed the same behaviors, the same excuses, the same patterns hundreds of times. The universe didn't do this to you. Life didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself. People look at successful individuals and think they were born strong. No. They just trained their strength the same way you trained your weakness. When they didn't feel like working, they worked anyway. When they felt tired, they pushed a little more. When their mind tried to negotiate, they refused to listen. And every time they acted with discipline, they reinforced the identity of a strong person. Meanwhile, every time you avoided difficulty, you reinforced the identity of someone who collapses at the slightest pressure. This is why your goals feel impossible. This is why your dreams feel distant. You're not losing because the world is unfair. You're losing because you've conditioned yourself to lose. You've created a mind that seeks comfort like a drug, a body that shuts down under stress, a soul that fears discomfort more than it desires success. And the saddest part, weakness feels normal to you now. It feels natural. It feels like your personality. But it's not who you truly are. It's simply who you've been rehearsing to be. You've repeated weakness so often that you believe it's your default state. But imagine if you flipped it. Imagine if you trained strength the same way you've trained weakness. Imagine if you practiced discipline every day. Imagine if you forced yourself to push when you wanted to quit. Imagine if you made discomfort your teacher instead of your enemy. Strength is built the same way weakness is built, through repetition, through habits, through the small choices you make every single day. And right now, your habits are teaching you to stay small. They're teaching you to be fragile. They're teaching you to surrender to your emotions. Instead of mastering them, you have to understand that becoming strong isn't about motivation. It isn't about inspiration or hype. It's about training your mind to obey you. It's about choosing what's necessary over what's comfortable. It's about rewriting the patterns you've repeated for years. And the longer you wait, the deeper your weakness gets rooted inside you. You weren't born powerless. You became powerless through practice. And if you can practice weakness, you can practice strength. You walk around thinking you need motivation to change your life, but that belief is the exact prison keeping you stuck where you are. Discipline isn't some optional ingredient. It isn't something you sprinkle on your life when you feel inspired. Discipline is the foundation of freedom itself. And the reason you don't have the life you want is because you don't have discipline. Not a lack of opportunity, not a lack of time, not a lack of support, a lack of discipline. You're waiting for the right mood, the right moment, the right energy, the right mindset to begin. But winners don't wait for the perfect moment. They start when everything feels wrong. They start when they're tired, when they're stressed, when they're overwhelmed. They start because discipline tells them the truth. If you don't move now, you won't move at all. You've built a habit of negotiating with yourself. That's your problem. You sit there telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, or later in the afternoon, or after you rest, or when you feel better. But that voice in your head that keeps offering you deals isn't your friend. It's your enemy. It's the part of you that wants comfort, not growth. It wants safety, not power. It wants familiarity, not transformation. And the more you listen to it, the weaker you become. Every time you delay action, you strengthen the voice that sabotages your own future. Every time you obey that voice, you erode the trust you should have in yourself. You stop believing in your own word. Because deep down you know you won't follow through. Discipline is the opposite. Discipline is the voice that says do it now, even if it burns, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you'd rather do anything else. Discipline is the promise you make to your future self. It's the act of becoming someone you can actually rely on. Imagine how different your life would be if you trusted yourself completely. If you knew that when you said you do something, you do it without hesitation. Imagine waking up and knowing your goals are no longer optional, but inevitable. That's what discipline gives you. It creates certainty. It creates momentum. It creates progress even on the days you feel weak. Most people think discipline is built from massive actions, but it isn't. It's built from tiny decisions that you repeat until they shape your identity. It's choosing to get out of bed the moment the alarm rings. It's choosing to start the task before your mind makes excuses. It's choosing to say no to the impulse and yes to the mission. These aren't dramatic moments. They're small, almost invisible victories, but those small victories add up, they stack, they accumulate, and eventually they turn you into someone unstoppable. Because discipline, once mastered, becomes automatic. It becomes who you are, not something you struggle to do. Look at the people you admire, the ones who are fit, wealthy, respected, or powerful. They're not superhuman. They're not gifted with endless motivation. They're simply consistent. They do what they must do, whether they feel like it or not. They take action without waiting for permission. They show up on days when their emotions scream at them to stop. That's why they win. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, because they are disciplined. And the truth is, discipline will hurt you before it heals you. At the beginning, it will feel like war. Your mind will resist, your body will protest, your emotions will panic. But that discomfort is the cost of freedom. When you choose discipline, you're choosing to take control of your destiny. You're choosing to stop being a slave to your impulses. You're choosing to build a life instead of drifting through one. Discipline demands effort, but it gifts strength. It demands sacrifice, but it gives you pride. It hurts today, but it pays for the rest of your life. You keep wondering why your life doesn't change, why your dreams feel out of reach, why you stay stuck in cycles you hate. It's because you haven't committed to the one thing that rewires your entire existence, the decision to act no matter how you feel. If you can master that one decision, everything else falls into place. Motivation becomes irrelevant. Excuses disappear. Resistance loses power. Your life begins to move forward in ways you've never experienced. Discipline is not optional if you want freedom. It is the price you must pay. And every moment you avoid that price, your goals drift further away. You don't realize it yet, but your excuses have become the chains around your ankles. You think you're stuck because life is hard, because circumstances are unfair, because opportunities never seem to come your way. But the truth is far simpler and far more brutal. Other people are passing you because they refuse to make the excuses you depend on. While you sit there telling yourself why you can't do something, someone else with fewer advantages, fewer resources, and fewer chances is doing it anyway. And every time you justify your inaction, you hand them the victory you claim belongs to you. Excuses feel harmless because they happen privately. You don't announce them to the world. You don't tell people, I didn't chase my goals today because I felt tired, or I wasted my evening because I wasn't in the mood. Excuses happen silently inside your head in a place where no one can call you out. And that's why they're so dangerous. You fail in your own mind before you ever fail in reality. You convince yourself that your circumstances are special, your struggles are different, your pain is unique. You tell yourself that you'll try tomorrow, that the timing isn't right, that you're not ready yet. But every excuse is a decision to stay exactly where you are. What you don't understand is that life doesn't care about your reasons. Results don't care about your reasons. Progress doesn't care about your reasons. You can sit there with the most tragic story, the hardest week, the longest list of problems, and the world will still move forward without you. While you're explaining why you didn't do the work, someone else is doing it quietly. While you're convincing yourself that your situation is too difficult, someone else is pushing through a situation 10 times worse. And when they succeed, you'll call them lucky, gifted, or privileged because it's easier to believe they had an advantage than to accept that they simply refused to make the excuses you did. Think about the moments when you've quit. Think about the goals you abandoned. Think about the opportunities you missed. If you're honest, almost every one of them died at the hands of an excuse. The opportunity wasn't too small. You convinced yourself it didn't matter. The dream wasn't too big. You convinced yourself you weren't ready. The work wasn't too hard. You convinced yourself it was the wrong time. You didn't fail because you couldn't do it. You failed because you talked yourself out of doing it. Excuses feel comforting because they allow you to escape discomfort. They protect your ego. They let you avoid acknowledging that you gave less than you could. But excuses also take something from you every single time. They take your momentum. They take your confidence. They take your self-respect. Deep down, you know when you're lying to yourself. You know when you should have pushed harder. You know when you should have acted. And every time you choose the excuse, you weaken the relationship you have with yourself. You stop trusting your own intentions. You stop believing your own plans. You stop respecting the goals you claim to care about. The reason excuses are so dangerous isn't because they stop you once. It's because they become your identity. They become your default response to challenge. They become the lens through which you see your entire life. You start believing that everything is too difficult, that change is impossible, that improvement is unrealistic. You start shrinking your dreams to match your excuses. And the moment you do that, you sabotage your own potential. Meanwhile, there are people who aren't smarter than you, aren't stronger than you, aren't luckier than you. Yet they are moving forward while you stay still. The only difference is that they refuse to negotiate with their excuses. They feel the same fatigue you feel. They experience the same fear you experience. They have the same doubts, the same worries, the same insecurities. But when that voice rises up in their mind trying to justify quitting, they shut it down. They act anyway. They push anyway. And that decision, one moment of overpowering the excuse, is what separates winners from losers. Your excuses are the reason others pass you. Not fate, not luck, not destiny. Every time you choose comfort over responsibility, someone else chooses responsibility over comfort. Every time you let your emotions control your actions, someone else acts despite theirs. Every time you tell yourself a story about why you can't, someone else silently proves they can. Success isn't magic. It isn't luck. It isn't something that happens to you because the universe finally decides you've suffered enough. Success is a contract you sign with yourself every single day, and most people never rise because they never honor that contract. They treat success like a lottery ticket instead of a responsibility. They think one good week of work should erase 10 years of laziness, or that one burst of motivation should change a lifetime of inconsistency. But real success doesn't bend to emotion. It doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to one thing: the actions you repeatedly take, even when nobody is watching, even when nothing is happening, even when the progress is invisible. You look at successful people and you tell yourself they had something you didn't. Better luck, better timing, better support. But if you spent even a single day living their routine, you'd understand instantly that their results weren't accidental. They won because they showed up every day with no guarantee of anything. They pushed when progress was slow. They stayed disciplined when distractions were tempting. They kept grinding when everyone else quit. Their success wasn't an event, it was a pattern built from consistency, sacrifice, repetition, and ownership. That's the contract. The problem is that people want success, but they want it on their terms. They want the results without the grind. They want the reward without the discipline. They want the respect without paying the price. They want the glory without the struggle. But success doesn't negotiate. You either pay in full or you stay exactly where you are. And every morning you wake up, you're presented with that same contract. Will you do the work you said you would? Or will you break your promise again and pretend the world is unfair? The contract of success is not signed once, it's signed continuously. Every choice you make is a signature. When you choose to train even though you're tired, that's a signature. When you choose to work instead of scrolling, that's a signature. When you choose to focus instead of procrastinate, that's a signature. And when you choose to slack off, skip the work, delay the task, or indulge in comfort, that's also a signature, one that cancels everything you claim to want. Success is always watching. The world might not see what you do, but your future sees everything. Think about the goals you dream about. The financial target, the physical transformation, the mental strength, the lifestyle you want to live. All of it requires a version of you that doesn't exist yet. And that version of you will only appear through repetitive discipline. You can't think your way into success. You can't hope your way into discipline. You can't dream your way into transformation. You must act your way into it again and again until the behavior becomes part of who you are. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is the most powerful force in personal transformation. Most people quit because they can't see progress fast enough. They start something on Monday and expect miracles by Thursday. They assume that if the reward isn't immediate, the effort was pointless. But success doesn't grow like a weed. It grows like a tree, slowly, invisibly, silently. You water it every day, and for weeks it looks dead. You start questioning yourself. You start doubting the process. You start wondering if this is all a waste of time. But if you keep going, if you honor the contract even when the results hide, one day the growth becomes visible. Not because it suddenly appeared, but because it had been building beneath the surface the entire time. Winners understand this. They don't need applause. They don't need validation. They don't need motivation every day. They trust the process because they trust themselves. They know that showing up every day is the only thing that separates them from who they used to be. They understand that the contract of success demands consistency even when life isn't fair, even when the circumstances are hard, even when nothing seems to be working. And here's the truth: most people never want to admit success is predictable. Not easy, but predictable. Anyone who honors the contract long enough rises. Anyone who breaks it repeatedly stays behind. Anyone who signs it daily eventually creates a life others admire. And anyone who treats it casually remains trapped in the same routines, the same excuses, the same cycles they've been stuck in for years. The only reason you don't have what you want yet is because you haven't been consistent enough for long enough. You start, you stop. You commit, you quit, you promise, then you forget. You keep tearing up the contract every time it feels inconvenient. And then you wonder why nothing in your life changes. Success doesn't respond to occasional effort. It responds to relentless consistency. And until you become the type of man who keeps his word even on the days he doesn't feel like it, you'll continue living below your potential. You keep telling yourself that change takes years, that transformation is slow, that success is a long, unpredictable process. But that belief is nothing more than another comfortable lie you've rehearsed for so long that it feels like truth. The reality is far more empowering and far more confronting. You can rewrite your entire life in 12 months. Not 5 years, not 10, 12 months. 1 year of ruthless commitment, brutal honesty, and disciplined action can undo a decade of excuses. But you've never given yourself a single year of seriousness. You've given yourself years of half effort, years of inconsistency, years of wishing and waiting. Not 1 year where you truly meant it. Imagine if you decided that this next year would be the year you actually showed up. The year you stopped negotiating with your weakness. The year you stopped quitting halfway through. The year you stopped caring about opinions, distractions, fears, and comfort. Imagine giving 1 year of your life to the highest version of yourself. 1 year where you acted with intention instead of impulse. 1 year where you held yourself accountable like your future depended on it, because it does. Your entire life could change so dramatically that the version of you living today wouldn't even recognize the man you'd become. People underestimate how fast progress compounds when you remove excuses. 1 month of discipline sharpens your mind. 3 months of consistency transforms your habits. 6 months of focus changes your environment. A full year of effort rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as the guy who tries. You begin seeing yourself as the man who executes, who finishes, who follows through. You start becoming the type of person whose goals aren't fantasies, they're obligations. But to achieve that level of transformation, you need to destroy the belief that change is slow. Change isn't slow. Your inconsistency is slow. Your doubt is slow. Your excuses are slow. You are not waiting for life. Life is waiting for you to become serious. Think about the last 12 months of your life. What did you actually build? What did you finish? What did you commit to long enough to see results? If you're honest, the answer is almost nothing. You spent months planning but not executing, months thinking about changing but never changing, months scrolling instead of building, months escaping reality instead of shaping it. And now another year has slipped through your fingers without leaving anything behind. That's what happens when you drift. A year disappears without producing anything meaningful. A year feels short when you live passively. But a year becomes powerful, transformational, when you live with intensity. Imagine if you use the next 12 months differently. Imagine waking up each morning with clarity instead of chaos. Imagine replacing bad habits with productive ones. Imagine spending your evenings building your future instead of wasting your potential. Imagine putting in the kind of effort that makes people wonder how you change so quickly. They'll call you lucky. They'll call you gifted. They'll say you had it easy, but you'll know the truth. You'll know that you simply took responsibility for a single year while they wasted theirs. Success isn't complicated when you break it down into time frames. You don't need 5 years of perfection. You need 1 year of seriousness, 1 year of consistency, 1 year of refusing to break the promises you make to yourself, a year of improving your health, building your discipline, leveling up your finances, mastering your routines, upgrading your environment, and cutting the dead weight from your life. You could be unrecognizable in 12 months, stronger, sharper, more confident, more respected, more capable, more disciplined. But the transformation won't happen because you want it. It will happen because you earn it. Day by day, choice by choice. 12 months of real effort can make your old problems irrelevant. 12 months can take you from broke to stable, from unfit to powerful, from insecure to confident, from lost to unstoppable. But you've never seen what happens when you give your full effort for an entire year because you've never done it. You've never committed long enough to see the compounding effect of consistent work. And that's why your life feels stagnant. That's why everything feels familiar. That's why nothing changes. You're experiencing the outcome of living each year exactly like the last. But the moment you decide that this year will not be a repeat, everything shifts. A single year of intensity can erase a decade of stagnation. A single year of commitment can build a future you once thought was impossible. A single year of discipline can create a version of you that dominates every area of your life. 12 months is all it takes. But only if you finally get serious. The truth is simple. Even if most people spend their entire lives running from it, every day you wake up, you're standing at the intersection between who you are and who you could be. And the path you choose, whether it's discipline or distraction, action or excuses, decides everything. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to drag you out of bed. Nobody is coming to fight your battles for you. This entire journey, this entire transformation you think you're waiting on, starts the moment you stop treating your life like something happening to you and start treating it like something happening because of you. You chose who you were yesterday. That's done. But who you choose to become today, that's still in your hands. And it doesn't require perfection or genius or some special talent. It requires a moment where you look at yourself with brutal honesty and say, enough. Enough wasting time, enough hiding behind distractions, enough pretending that circumstances are the enemy, enough calling it destiny when it's just avoidance, because the world respects movement. It rewards the person who takes the first step without waiting for the perfect moment. It responds to the one who decides to act while everyone else keeps planning, dreaming, talking, and delaying. When you become that person, the person who follows through, who stays focused, who pushes when others collapse, you stop being someone the world ignores and start becoming someone it can't stop watching. Every success story you admire began with a decision. Not a miracle, not luck. A decision that the old version of themselves was no longer acceptable. And that's the same decision standing in front of you right now. You can choose the comfortable version of yourself, the one that repeats the same habits, the same patterns, the same empty promises, or you can choose the version that demands respect, because it first respects itself. Life will always test you. It will challenge your discipline, tempt your weaknesses, amplify your doubts, and try to convince you that staying the same is safer than evolving. But nothing about staying the same is safe. Staying the same guarantees regret, guarantees frustration, guarantees a life that never rises beyond almost. Growth is risk, yes, but staying stuck is destruction, and the moment you accept that, the moment you understand that responsibility isn't a burden but a power, you unlock a freedom the average person never experiences. The freedom to build, to rise, to dominate your own direction. The freedom to shape your identity instead of living inside the one you settled for. The freedom to look in the mirror and actually respect what you see. So now the choice is in front of you again. Not tomorrow, not next month, right now. You can walk away from this speech and fall back into the same cycle, or you can let these words hit you where they need to hit you and push you into motion. The difference between those two decisions determines the difference between living a life you complain about and living a life you command. Everything you want is on the other side of the version of you that refuses to stay average. It's on the other side of the excuses you keep recycling. It's on the other side of the discipline you keep postponing. And you already know which version of you needs to show up. You already know the life you're meant to build. You already know the power you've ignored for too long. This is your moment. Whether you act on it or not will define everything that comes next.